Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us today. My group and I are here to present some innovative recommendations to help Coca-Cola achieve its 2020 vision of doubling revenue. To start, we'll have an overview of our presentation tonight. We're going to start off with a brief industry and financial analysis, followed by the key issues that are presented to Coca-Cola today, and our recommendations to address these issues, and implementation as well of these recommendations. Then we're going to finish off with projections for the future. Utilizing Porter's 5 forces model for a quick industry analysis, we see that the threat of new entrants in the soft drink industry is relatively low, seeing how as the industry is fully saturated with competitors and the growth is minimal. Additionally, companies need to throw massive amounts of money into marketing and advertising to stay competitive in this industry. In 2010, Coca-Cola spent $2.9 billion in advertising alone. The power of suppliers is relatively low as well, due to the fact that the raw materials used to make still and soft drinks are basic commodities that are readily available throughout the industry, making the switching costs very low. The individual buyer has little to no pressure on Coca-Cola when purchasing from vending machines, convenience stores, and food stores, making Coca-Cola's bargaining power tremendous. The substitutes have become relatively strong in recent years due to changing consumer preferences towards more nutritional and health-conscious drinks. Products like juices, teas, functional and non-functional waters, and sports drinks have become preferred in contrast to carbonated soft drinks. The rivalry is the strongest among the 5 forces in this industry because of brand loyalty and marketing and advertising. I'm going to pass it off to Brandon now for a financial analysis.
So looking at Coca-Cola, we felt that Coke is in strong financial standing, with revenues generally increasing every year and profit margins stabilized around 21%. We feel that this shows Coca-Cola's strong financial standing. While we have seen a recent negative revenue increase, we feel that this is reflective of the market conditions due to the recent economic crisis. A testament to Coca-Cola's strong financial standing is the fact that since 2001, they have been rated as the most valuable brand by Interbrand's Best Value Brand Survey. Here you can see Coca-Cola compared to Pepsi and their values in 2009. While we do feel Coca-Cola is in strong financial standing, there were a few red flags that we looked at. First was the high long-term debt-to-equity ratio of the newly acquired bottling company. Second was the increase of the overall long-term debt-to-equity ratio to around 45%. And lastly, there's been a dip in Coca-Cola's return on assets to below 10%. While these may be red flags, we feel that Coca-Cola can reach their 2020 vision by cutting costs, eliminating waste, and expanding into markets not completely capitalized. Now we're going to go over the 2 main issues that we looked at. First, we found an oversaturation of bottling plants in regions in North America. Second, we see a shift in consumer demand towards a healthier lifestyle.
Thank you, Brennan. With that, leads us into our recommendations for the evening. First off, we noticed that there are a lot of excess costs in the newly acquired Coca-Cola Enterprises company. There are a lot of bottling plants that are in a saturated area, and we can eliminate most of them and reduce a lot of costs. Finally, then we're going to push into pushing still brands because of health-conscious consumers. Next, there's an untapped energy market, which has a lot of potential for Coca-Cola to move into to generate larger revenues. And finally, we highly recommend you guys focusing on growth markets and growth demographics throughout the world. Now, dealing with the newly acquired Coca-Cola Enterprises, first and foremost, we see here, we ran a couple analyses and found that there's about 34 excess plants, which could lead up to saving $120 million annually if you eliminate them. And also, there's no need to have 2 separate supporting operation departments for one for Coca-Cola and one for Coca-Cola Enterprises. By synergizing and consolidating these 2 departments into one house, you can save approximately $320 million a year. Now moving on to exactly how we came up with that $120 million in savings. We found that there's approximately 35 Coca-Cola Enterprise bottling companies that we eliminated. And the elimination of one takes $3.5 million a year, multiplied by the 34, gives you $120 million in savings annually. And this will help to increase Coca-Cola Enterprises' profit margin, that branch of Coca-Cola, by 30%, pushing towards a $2 billion profit margins, operating profit margins, instead of $1.5 billion that it's at.
Good evening, guys. I'm going to talk about the second step of our recommendations, which is revising our market strategy. And right now, we're living in a world that's very focused on trying to live a healthy lifestyle and being very conscious about what it is we're putting inside our bodies. And as is the case, we're starting to see stunning growth in the actual carbonated soft drink industry, and there's a push towards more healthier substitutes, whether it's still brands such as waters and juices, or even maybe diet sodas. In fact, Coke Zero actually had double-digit growth in sales volume for the past 19 consecutive quarters. And on top of that, if you look at Coke's financials from 2009 to 2010, the sparkling beverages, such as sodas and other things like that, had an increase in sales volume of about 2.6%, while the still brands had an increase of about 15.7%, which is a very significant number. While most people would be alarmed at this, we do see that Coca-Cola is very well set up for this in the future. Just by looking at the products from waters, juices, and teas, they own a wide variety. They own the entire spectrum pretty much, from low-end value things such as Dasani water, Minute Maid juice, and Nestle. And they also own the other end of the spectrum, which is higher-end premium products such as Avian water, Simply Orange, or Gold Peak and Honest Tea. Not to mention, we also have Powerade and Vitamin Water, which both own a sizable amount of market share. Now, as far as implementation for these goes, as you said before, Coca-Cola spent $2.9 billion in advertising alone last year. That's a full billion more than Pepsi spent the same year. So obviously, money is not an issue, and we're not saying Coca-Cola needs to spend more money or less money for their marketing. We're just saying we need to allocate it more towards where we need to. For example, for North America, we should focus on still brands. Now, moving on, another market we should look into is the energy drink market. As of right now, there's three main players in this market. There's Red Bull, Monster, and Rockstar, with Rockstar actually being a distant third. Red Bull pulled in revenues of about $2.2 billion. Monster pulled in about $1.5 billion, while Rockstar pulled in about $400 million. Now, Coca-Cola is a distributor for Monster energy drinks, but we're not making the drinks, so we're not getting the profits like they are. And as you can see, having gross sales of $1.5 billion, while that may be a small amount of $35 billion we bring in annually, it's still a growing energy. It's a growing market that we think should not be left behind. Now we're moving on to Emmanuel.
So, building on what Ernest was saying, we have the North American market, which has been held as a standard to all other markets. The only problem is we've had stagnation in terms of revenue growth within this market. It's come to our attention that Hispanic demographics have been growing more quickly than any other population within the United States. And they also overconsume at a weighted average that we computed of 122% across both drinking categories. Now, the way we arrived at our estimate, our projection of $4.5 billion is in additional revenue for 2020, as we took into consideration the additional 60.5 million people that would be in the United States by 2020, and the weighted average of 122 in overconsumption, as well as the current 2010 consumption, the rate per amount per person for 2010. So now I'm sure you're wondering, how are we going to secure this market? How can we secure this 4.5 billion in revenue from 60.5 million people? Well, it all comes down to how we market to them. We have to realize that in dealing with this demographic, you can't treat it as fully homogeneous. It breaks down into two categories. You have the native born, and you also have the ones who have immigrated here to make this their new home. For the interest of time, I will not be going into how to more specifically market within those two demographics to be more effective, but I will be willing to answer any questions you may have on it. Now to Ariel or emerging markets.
Thank you. I'm going to talk to you about 4 emerging markets in different countries of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. We chose these countries based on population growth and growth of industry. So without further ado, the first country, Brazil, currently has a non-alcoholic soft drink market of $28.7 billion. And of this market, Coca-Cola has roughly 39% of it. Additionally, of this market, the largest portion of non-alcoholic soft drinks is carbonated drinks at roughly 52%, making it a $15 billion industry. We feel that based on the way the industry is growing and the way Coca-Cola can market itself, so we can position ourselves at an increased market share of 44%. And based on the rate that the industry is growing, it will be at $48 billion by 2020, making Coca-Cola's share of this market $11 billion for 2020. And this is due to marketing and events such as the 2018 Olympics, which will be in Rio. Now moving on to the next country, Russia. Russia has historically not been known for soft drink sales because of its cold weather. Hot drinks have been more popular. However, a heat wave in 2010 increased soft drink sales, and we believe that with global warming, this will continue into the future. So we've divided the market into 3 categories. The first being bottled water, which we feel that because of rising income and poor water quality, is a promising market. Additionally, soft drinks such as sports drinks and energy drinks, not soda due to health trends, will also be popular. In addition, there's also going to be Olympics in Russia in 2014, making it very popular for sports drinks. And the final category is juices, which has been stable at roughly $400 million in imports each year. Now moving on to India. India is one of the top 10 largest consumers of bottled water. And the bottled water industry has been growing significantly over the past few years in India, and we feel that it will continue to grow, making Coca-Cola's water company, Kinley, in India, a very promising market. We currently have 25% of the market share, and we believe this could be increased by 10% to 35% through increased marketing, meaning that the market will grow. Coca-Cola's value in India will grow from $350 million to $630 million by 2020. Now on to Emmanuel for some info on China.
So currently, well, in 2009 actually, China held $1.4 billion worth of the soft drink industry in China. We have projected, the panel will look at Exhibit 31, you can see we projected the 2020 value for the soft drink industry in China to be about $13.67 billion. Now, we think that if China is able to increase their market share to 35% within China, within this market, they can secure $4.78 billion for an additional revenue for 2020. Now, I'm sure you're wondering how can we do that? We can turn away from, not turn away, but change the focus from colas to mixers, because as you can see, because mixers have a 45% market share, and it's the largest market share with a single drink within the industry. Instead of switching our, and so we switch our focus from colas to mixers, and that's how we gain that additional market share. Now on to Evans for introductions.
Okay, now as we look towards the future, please keep in mind with our recommendations, while you may not see your profits increase right away, based on our consolidation alone, it will cut costs enough for a year 2020, your profit margins will increase to 24.9%. And when you add in the rest of our recommendations, such as revising our marketing strategy, we see that not only will you bring your return on assets ratio back up to about the industry average of 13% by 2020, we also estimated that you'll have revenues up to at least $56 billion by the year. If you couple that with the fact that the global beverage industry is slated to increase, we find that this company is actually in very good financial shape and it's set up well for the future, and we believe it can continue to be a leader in this industry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Could you please elaborate? I believe that one of your recommendations was eliminating a good portion of our bottling capacity. Could you please elaborate on how you determined 34 excess plates? What's your criteria?
Sure, not a problem. If you look at the exhibit, I believe it's 30, we came down with 2 distinctions of how to measure the excess plant. The excess plants and saturated areas. One is based on population per geographic area, which is metropolitan micropolitan statistical area, which is upon the U.S. Census Bureau. And we kept it by population and retail beverage outlets per area. So we came to the conclusion that the bottom 20% is going to be private and CCD companies. Now, that came out based on the population analysis, it came out to about 27 excess bottling companies that Coca-Cola Enterprise owns. Now, when you just broke it down by beverage retail beverage outlets per Coca-Cola enterprise factory, it came to the number 31. So since both of these are a factor, the average two numbers got 29, and that was for the highly populated area, geographic population of 10,000 or more. Now moving on to the rural areas, any Coca-Cola plant found within 40 miles of itself could easily be covered with the excess, with the plant capacity from another plant in that area. So it came to a total of 34. Exhibit 16. The population is, for the population index, it was based on if it's less than, I think it was 60,000 people per plant population, 50 or 60,000 people per plant, it was considered excess and can be covered by the surrounding plants. And if you had less than about 80 retail beverage outlets per plant, it was also considered excess.
Okay, I have two questions on the same line, the same issue. Which is, how come the determination was made to, or how come the recommendation is to eliminate the excess capacity as opposed to retool the capacity and or use the capacity to
We recommended that because right now, as you see, they're not at full capacity. There's, looked into, we saw when we were doing research, you guys looked into private, shipping it off the private label, and it just wasn't, you guys couldn't find enough demand for it. So you had workers just standing around not really earning their pay, and they were idle workers, and they were working about 60% capacity, and by eliminating them, we determined that we were able to save the most money, $120 million annually.
and over what time frame?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Excuse my question, but it's extremely based on what you said.
The time-
Great. Over what time frame did you actually implement the elimination of that many facilities?
Well, we do understand that there are labor contracts in negotiation, and there are territory distribution contracts that we have to be aware of. And we estimate you guys can achieve this by 2020 by limiting about 3 to 4 plants per year. So we understand that does take a lot, and you can't close them down overnight, but about 3 to 4 plants per year, and you'll have that $120 million savings per annually by 2020.
This question is kind of for your whole team, which is, this is a tough one. But if you embark on a process of eliminating 3 to 4 plants every year, how much more are we going to put in our marketing budget to fix that deal that we're putting out in the marketplace, becoming known as the company that's closing plants after plants? How are you going to combat that?
Well, what we could do is, we have looked into that. What we recommend is save $3.5 million per plant saved. Why not put that back into the marketing and say, you know what, we're not doing it. We're just doing this because there's a more efficient way to do it.
And continuing on John's point, I'd just like to say that by eliminating it slowly is another marketing strategy because we're not closing down all 34 plants at once, which would obviously be terrible to all of the workers. We're doing it gradually over time, and also we're absorbing some of the workers from the closed factories into the factories that we see as more strategic. So it's not that we're cutting all of our losses and letting everyone go right at once.
And if you look at this chart we have up here, you can save about 50% of the underutilized plants. There's about 70 workers per plant that are in the excess regions, and we can transfer about 35 of those workers to other plants to take over different operations.
Given the strong brand recognition that we've built up in this company over the years and the focus with the marketing efforts on national and global recognition of this brand, how do you anticipate you're going to translate that power and that strength into this highly fragmented still market where there are no clear players, regional differences are going to affect what might be available or not available, taste differences may vary. A Coke is a Coke wherever we go. But that's not to be said that an energy drink or a tea beverage or what have you will have the same, be able to be carried the same fashion. How are we going to translate what we currently do into that kind of focus going forward?
Well, obviously, one of the Coke's biggest strengths is its brand name. It's known around the world. Everyone knows the icon, the red background, white Coca-Cola symbol. obviously, there's so many drinks that Coca-Cola owns. I mean, we named a few, but if you look at the entire list, there's so many. There's a lot of like little unknown, like maybe there's some random small energy drinks that they sell in Japan, only in Japan, or something only in Denmark. And we do believe that it's tough to sell things that aren't red cans with Coca-Cola on them. But we do believe that, just for advertising, whether it's a commercial or a poster or a billboard, to see just that icon, I think, helps so much. For people, once people see it, they'll instantly recognize it. Yeah, it might be for Dasani, it might be for vitamin water, but maybe if they implemented and putting the icon around the board, that would help a lot, I think, just off the bat.
Also, Coca-Cola has the infrastructure set up, and even though we have smaller brand names, or you guys have smaller brand names, the quality will be consistent, which a smaller bottling company or drink company cannot match. Coca-Cola. So that's how we develop, or we plan you guys to develop that brand loyalty that will bring the customers coming back, drink after drink.
Would you recommend any differences in terms of the strategy if DPS and Pepsi were to consolidate?
Well, DPS and Pepsi are two of our largest competitors, but although we are competing against them as individuals now, I think that as long as we focus on making our own brand strong and work to combat our own weaknesses and threats, that the threats that they pose to us won't change.
And adding on to what Ariel said, sure, they are a threat, right? But that is within North America. DPS is not a threat worldwide. So taking that into consideration, we have to realize that, okay, North America, sure, it's going to have a little bit of an impact, but we are so much higher on brand recognition, as Brendan pointed out, and that's a lot of brand value, that we don't really see how that is going to be such a major. It has some implications, but again, that's only in one market primarily.
I'm glad you put this slide up. Our brand value has declined, or is flat, but our primary competitor's value is increasing. Will your recommendation increase our value, and can we monetize our brand?
This study takes into account a number of things. So when financials, customer loyalty, and brand recognition. Yeah. So we think with the revised marketing and really going into these niche markets that we find, we will increase, we'll create value that wasn't there before. With just blanket products.
I just have one final question. In your slide looking at the energy drinks, are you suggesting that we should buy Red Bull?
Well, obviously, Red Bull is a giant company. I know this might be breaking the rules by talking about it, but they just had a guy skydive from outer space. So, but going back for Red Bull, we did look into this, but being a private company, it was hard to find the exact numbers we needed. But say for a company like Monster, which we could find the information, they did have revenues of about $1.5 million, and you can see they had costs of around $800 million. So those are big numbers, but for a company like Coca-Cola, could they acquire something like this? It's definitely possible. But it's just, we have to, I say, our suggestion was to do research to see whether we should acquire it or develop our own and see what weight costs of each one and then move on from there. But we did believe that this was a really promising market, and there's really only two main right now. And the main difference being, well, Coca-Cola does have energy drinks, but they have a lot of things like energy sodas. They don't have things like Red Bull and Monster, which are just, they'll have maybe about the same amount of caffeine as a couple of Starbucks, but they have a huge amount of caffeine-infused vitamins, B vitamins. And that seems to be the new age of energy drinks, so we thought they were viable in products like that.
Thank you.
Now a couple of questions from the audience.
This chart, you are talking about the Red Bull increasing a lot specific strategy or a plan for not falling behind this market, in this market, energy drink market? A specific plan. Because you are talking about we shouldn't fall behind in this market, so what are you going to do?
Well, we're not really even in the market at all, is what I'm saying. It's the point I was trying to make. It's an opportunity for us to look into. We are the distributor for Monster, which does help, so we do have a relationship with them. But, just being a distributor is a lot different from producing your own brand of this, reaping your own benefits. So, I wasn't saying that. I was basically saying we don't have a presence in this market.
So you're not going to just saying.
It's what we were basically saying. It's an opportunity. It wasn't so much. It was a recommendation, and we should look into it. Yeah.
Okay. And also, you were talking about the China market. You were talking about 2012 and the expectation of 30.6 billion. Actually, you're also talking about we are cooperating with the mixer, they're controlling 45% of the market share. So how are you gonna persuade them? Your brand value is going down. How are you gonna persuade other competitors to cooperate with you guys? Why are they going to cooperate with you? Because they also have a lot of local brands in China. A lot of other competitors are coming from too. Why are they going to cooperate with you?
Sure. Okay. So right now, Coca-Cola has been, I wouldn't say ignoring, but sort of putting to the side the mixers because it's been primarily focusing on cola, right? So it's almost like they're not aware of the mixers we're selling because the presence is very little for Coca-Cola within mixers, and we had quite a few because Coca-Cola has so many brands, and it's just the awareness is the biggest thing there. It's not in their face as much as it should be because cola is already in their face. They already know about it. So we need to turn away from that and turn that focus more on and bring awareness to those mixers, and that's how that can be done because it'll be associated. Sure, like I said, the value, the brand value is going down, but we're associated, as long as we still associate with Coca-Cola, we still have a strong